think it's been a couple of years since I updated my palette, and as you can see, it's been well used, let's put it that way. This is my studio palette. It's the palette that I do most of my own paintings with, and I'm finding that there are some colors there that I just don't use at all, and I want to add some other colors. So I am going to refresh this palette, and I'm also going to talk you through how I go about doing this so that you can either do it the way I do it, or figure out a way that works for you. First thing I'm going to do though is to take a photo of this palette, partly for record because it's nice, but also because I write all the names of the colors on the palette. I would just want to know where is what color, because I'm going to clean this palette and all the writing is going to go. So I'm going to keep a record of it so that I know what colors what afterwards. I'm just going to take a photo of the palette. Here is the palette. First of all, I'm going to decide what color is going to move, because if I'm going to take out any color, I want to be able to clean that well out at the same time as cleaning the rest of the palette. So I'm going to put a little post-it note on the colors that I'm going to take out of the palette. The first one is definitely the Quinacridone Violet that I have here, and the reason why I'm going to take this one out is because I have the Bordeaux right next to it. They both are good as an F well color, and if you don't know what F well means, it's part of my color wheel palette system, and I will leave a link up here to explain what it is and stuff. I'm just going to assume you know about the different wells for now. And I find that I'm always using the Bordeaux and not the Quinacridone Violet, so I'm going to take that out. Another color that I'm going to take out is the Phthalo Blue Red shade, because I just don't use it. You can see that it's very smooth and it looks just as if I've poured the paint the other day and not used it. All the other well-used ones have brush marks on it, so I'm going to take that out. Also going to take out the green gold and the May green because I've just never used it. So those are out. I'm going to take all these three out. The yellow, ochre, burnt sienna and burnt umber, because I don't use those either. And I have a few colors that I want to add to it that are very exciting for me. This is completely unique to my situation, is that the ultramarine violet here and the ultramarine blue here are kind of really stuck in there, and so I'm not going to try moving. So everything pivots around this corner, so if I'm going to move anything, it's around this part of the palette, because these ones are just not going to come out, but the others will. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to talk you through the tools that I use for refreshing the palette. First is the palette knife, and that is for getting the old dried paint out of the palette. And I really recommend you get a firm one. This is the Holbein one. This is the hard Holbein one, it says, and it's pretty firm. And that's because if you get a soft one, it's not going to lift up any paint. Also, be very careful when you do use it, because you can hurt yourself with it. Also, other things are hog brushes, and I find that hog bristle brushes, the short stubby ones, are perfect for cleaning out the wells with. You can really go scrub the brush. And then we have isopropyl alcohol. This is like 95%. I always have a bottle of alcohol in my house, and this is for not only just getting rid of the Sharpie writing on the palette, but also I find that this is the best way to remove stains, because I know some people are a big fan of using erasers, but I'm not, because I don't like having to deal with the used up bits on my palette, and I worry about it going on to the wells and mixing with the paint. So for me, isopropyl alcohol is my favorite. Kitchen towel, obviously, but I'm just going to take it out of here because I'm running out of space. And then also, I'll leave it here. There you go, you can see. And then also a Sharpie to rewrite what the colors are. So the first thing I'm going to do is to remove all the old colors that I'm definitely gonna get rid of. So this is the Phthalo Blue red shade that I'm gonna get rid of, and this is my palette knife, and you can just get under the paint. Try not to scratch the well up too much. Keep the palette knife parallel with the well, but you can just lift it up easily if you have a firm palette knife, and then normally you can just pull the rest of it up. And that's all you got to do. It's really, really easy. I have a big palette that has lots of colors. I'm just gonna add this to that on the appropriate well rather than throw this out. So don't worry, because I know some people get very, very upset when they see a paint getting removed. It's not gonna get wasted, don't you worry. And let's remove the green gold. This one I've that was easy. Hardly ever used this color. That's all the colors removed from the wells that I want to remove. So what I'm going to do now is just clean this palette and clean out the wells that are empty or needs moving. And hopefully this will come out at the same time. All I do is wet the wells that I'm going to clean out. And with my hog brush, I just scrub away. And because a hog brush is very firm, it should come out pretty well. And then use a kitchen towel or a tissue or a rag and just clean that up. There you go, that's one clean well. Okay, so I've been doing this for an hour now and I still have a lot to move around. So what I've decided to do is to start this palette afresh. I already have a palette that's the same because it's taking forever, and I used this palette for 4 years now, so it's had a good run. But before I do that, I just wanted to show you guys how to remove the stains, because that might be useful to you guys. And all I'm doing is spraying alcohol onto their area, and then it will come off nice and clean, and you don't have to worry about eraser crumbs and things. So you will be able to get the palette back to nice, clean, almost new looking pretty easily. And it works for phthalos as well as queens. Let's show you what it's like for phthalos. This is like phthalo turquoise, so really staining. But yeah, I've decided I'm gonna change most of the palettes, so it's just going to be easier if I start again. Don't worry, these paints won't be wasted. I will add on to the new palette later on, but let's start a fresh palette because it's been a long time of cleaning and messy, and yeah, I've just got to the stage where I just need to start a new one. So here's the old one. This palette is again the Jackson's 28 well palette. Oh, it's nice. It's all clean and stuff. So I'm going to decide what colors to have on here. First up is Aureolin. Always have that anyway. Now, there's issues around here because trans red oxide always leaks into the vermilion and changes the color. So I want to give it a space between the trans red oxide and vermilion. Also, I have nickel azo yellow here, but I think the nickel azo yellow and trans red oxide being next to each other will make more sense. So I'm going to put the permanent yellow deep next to the Aureolin, and then nickel azo yellow, and then trans red oxide and a little gap, and then vermilion, Scarlet Lake, I'm still questioning about whether to have Queen Coral or not. Pyrrole, Rubin, Quinacridone, Rose. These are my standard colors. I'm going to have Bordeaux here, Carbazole Violet here, and then Ultramarine Violet here. The thing about the Schmincke colors, and I've always experienced this, is once you fill a well, like I did with the May green, they will not come out. So choose your Schmincke's very carefully. Ultramarine Finest by Schmincke, and then Indigo, and then Phthalo Blue yellow shade, because we don't have the red shade anymore, and then Phthalo Turquoise, Hooker's Green by Holbein. I also want to add Hooker's Green by Quirrell because it's a different shade and it was so beautiful that I just want to have more of those. Other colors I want to put in there are Payne's Grey by Rembrandt, and I still haven't made up my mind whether I want De La Rowney's Payne's Grey or Rembrandt's Payne's Grey. They both mix beautifully with colors. I was kind of tempted to do both, but because this is slightly different, but I don't know if I need both, so I still haven't made up my mind about that. I want sepia here, and I'm going to have Naples Yellow instead of Yellow Ochre, because this Naples Yellow, as you saw on the M gram, is really high tinting strength, which is great. So I'm just going to experiment with Naples Yellow to see if that's the kind of thing I'm looking for, or I might want to switch it back to the Yellow Ochre. I'm not sure yet. So there's going to be a nice gap here. I'm kind of tempted to just give this a bit of breathing room here. So I have blue here, and then greens here, and neutrals here. But would that look weird to have? I'm not sure. What I'm going to do is start writing the colors first onto the palette, because that's a thing I do personally. You don't have to do it, obviously, but then I know that I'm putting the right colors in the right place when I come to actually pouring the paint. So all I use is a Sharpie. I'm so sorry for the state of my hand. All I use is a Sharpie, and I just write the color names. Next thing I'm going to do is to write the well labels on the palette, so I know that which colors can neutralize with which. And now it's time to pour the paints, which is the fun bit. That's the palette done. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 colors in a 28 color palette. You might have balked at how much Queen Rose I put into a well. I do that because I use Queen Rose a lot, and I use a lot of it in one go. So the colors that I know I'm going to use a lot, I have poured a lot more into it. The new colors that I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to or not, that I've only put a considerably small amount. By the way, that is Opera by Holbein. I just wanted to see if I'll use it. It's also split though. Unfortunate thing is, this is Ultramarine Violet by Schmincke, and it's completely solid. It's a whole tube that just went solid. So I'm a bit upset about that, but I did have another tube available. But yeah, there's nothing. It's so solid. I might be able to like cut it and put it in there. I don't know. I'm very happy with these colors. These are all high tinting strengths. You guys know I talk about tinting strengths a lot. There are lots of Quins and Phthalos here. I've left a gap here in case I do want to put the other Payne's Grey or maybe a Lamp Black by Holbein. I like to leave little gaps here and there so I can sneak in a color later without having to shift everything all over again. This is how the colors look like all painted onto a chart. And I've marked the new colors. I have Opera here, the Hook is Green by Core, Naples Yellow, Sepia and Payne's Grey. And then I have removed Quinacridone Violet, Phthalo Blue Red Shade, Green Gold, May Green, Yellow Ochre, Burnt Cyan and Burnt Umber. I might move this Sepia and Payne's Grey further down if I find that the Sepia leaks into the Naples Yellow and taint that colour a little bit. But for now, I'm going to leave it like that. Chromatically speaking, the Permanent Yellow and Nickel Azure Yellow should be swapped around because this is warmer than the Nickel Azure Yellow. But I'm actually quite happy to have the Transparent Red Oxide and the Nickel Azure Yellow next to each other, and then the Permanent Yellow Deep and Iridian next to each other, because in my mind, these two are quite similar. They're very transparent colors, whereas these ones are a little bit more opaque, although Aureolin is quite transparent as well. It kind of made sense to me in my head. I hope this video was useful to you. I'm sorry I changed tactic halfway through. I genuinely thought I was just going to update the palette, but this was easier. It's actually really nice to have a nice fresh palette. I'm going to say a deep thanks to the other palette because it has been with me ever since I started and actually had a studio palette that I was happy with. It's been like 3 or 4 years, so yeah, but it's nice to have a new one, and I will keep you guys updated on how it goes. I will definitely do more update videos maybe in like a year or a couple of years time, just like this one, to show you guys how it's going. If you want to try any of these colors, I have left links down below to every single one of these colors and where you can get them both in the UK, EU and America, so that it's easy for you to find. If I get around to it, I will also do an Amazon shop over on Amazon America. That is just a shopping list of all the colors so that you can find it a lot easier. Do let me know if you have any questions about how I set up this palette in the comments, or what you think of this palette. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press like and subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!